You've been told to pray, you've been told to wait, you've been told to hope, to ask, to surrender, to be patient. And yet, somewhere deep in your spirit, there is a cry that says, "Enough waiting, show me movement. Enough delay, open the gates." And I say to you now, heaven does not open by begging. It opens by decree. It opens not with pleading, but with a word spoken in alignment with divine law. There is a word you must speak, not just think, not just wish, but speak with boldness, rhythm, and spiritual authority. That word is not emotional, it is not desperate, it is not heavy with doubt. It is clear, commanding, rooted in truth. And when it is spoken, something moves not later, not eventually, but now. You have spent enough time rehearsing lack, enough time narrating your waiting season, enough time performing spiritual worthiness while quietly doubting your power. But I am here to tell you, you do not need to convince God to move. God is always moving. It is your word that activates your alignment with the movement. You've been watching the skies, hoping for rain, but you forgot to speak the storm into motion. You've been knocking at doors, not realizing you are the one who carries the key. And what is that key? The spoken word, spoken with faith, spoken from authority, spoken as law. Because your word is not ornamental, it is operational. It is not symbolic, it is seed. And every time you speak from truth, you sow divine reality into the field of manifestation. The spiritual law is this: your word is the key. Your faith is the hand that turns it. You cannot hold the key and expect the door to open on its own. You must turn it. You must speak as one who knows, not as one who wonders. You must speak from the throne, not from the shadows. Heaven responds to authority. And your word, when spoken in alignment, does not request heaven, it commands it, not with arrogance, but with law, not from the ego, but from the Christ within. Too many people are trying to feel their way into miracles. They wait for the right emotion, the right energy, the perfect mood. But law is not emotional. Law is mechanical. And spirit reacts not to your feelings, but to your word. The vibration of your voice carries your command into the ethers. The rhythm of your decree tells the universe what you are ready to receive. The frequency of your declaration becomes the blueprint of your next reality. And if your mouth is quiet, if your speech is coated in fear, soaked in hesitation, or choked by doubt, then nothing can move. But speak and heaven moves. Speak and the law is activated. Speak and the thing you thought was locked begins to open from the inside. Say this with me now, not as a chant, not as a hope, but as a decree. My word is law, my speech is power. I speak from divine authority, and the gates of heaven respond. I no longer beg, I declare. I no longer wait, I activate. My word is the key, and I turn it now. And let that key turn not in theory, but in practice. Let it turn in your finances. Let it turn in your body. Let it turn in your relationship. Let it turn in your purpose. Let your word be the loudest voice in your atmosphere, louder than fear, louder than doubt, louder than delay. You were not sent here to wish for miracles. You were sent to speak them. And when you speak the word in truth, God moves. Let us now address the ache beneath your affirmations, the hidden frustration behind your faithful speaking, the quiet voice in your mind that asks, "Why hasn't it worked yet?" You have spoken. You have declared. You have quoted scripture. You have repeated affirmations like incantations, yet the mountain remains unmoved. And somewhere in that tension, fear tries to whisper, maybe the word doesn't work. Maybe God didn't hear you. Maybe it's not real. But I tell you, with the force of divine truth, the word never fails. But not all words are the word. Not all speaking is declaration. Not all affirming is alignment. And this is where the shift begins. What you have called affirmations may have been laced with hesitation. What you thought was bold decree may have been wrapped in fear. The words were correct, but the vibration was off. And spiritual law responds not only to the language, but to the frequency. You cannot speak, "I am rich," while vibrating, "I hope this works." You cannot declare healing while embodying dread. The word only activates when spoken from knowing, from law, from spiritual posture, not performance. This is what I call vain repetition words, spoken from the surface of the mind, but not from the seat of spiritual identity. They are hollow. They echo in the ethers, but they do not imprint. They mimic truth, but they carry the scent of disbelief. They are often said because you're afraid of what will happen if you don't say them, not because you fully believe in the power that backs them. But I remind you now, the word is not a superstition, it is a spiritual instrument. It must be tuned before it is played. And tuning happens through clarity, trust, and law. The law of vibration teaches us that what you feel behind what you speak is what becomes form. Your emotion is the carrier wave. If you are declaring, "I am abundant," while feeling scarcity, the feeling will override the form. That is why many speak their good but manifest their fear. Because their faith is in the fear, not in the truth. You must recalibrate. You must recenter your declarations on spiritual fact, not emotional reaction. And you must do so consistently, rhythmically, with no apology and no wobble. The scripture says, "Let not that man think he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." James 1:7-8. Double-mindedness is not about moral failure, it is about vibrational conflict. When you say one thing and believe another, you split the energy. You block the channel. You interrupt the delivery. It is not punishment, it is principle. The law cannot move where the decree is sabotaged by contradiction. You must speak with spiritual single-mindedness. You must anchor in one reality and live there mentally, emotionally, verbally, vibrationally. So why haven't your words worked? They have. They've been working perfectly, according to the frequency they carried. And now, that changes. Now you begin to speak from power, from law, from divine substance. No more begging dressed up as affirmation. No more hoping hidden inside holy words. No more declaring truth with one breath and canceling it with the next. You rise now into the real practice of speech as law. Say this with me now. I no longer repeat, I decree. I no longer wish, I command. I speak from the throne, not the wound. I speak with the authority of one whose word is backed by divine law. Let every false formula fall away. Let every memorized phrase lose its grip. Let every weak whisper be replaced with a strong, rhythmic, creative command of spirit. Your words didn't fail. They were waiting for you to believe them. And now you do. So now they work. You have been taught to wait. Taught to believe that God moves slowly, that spirit takes time, that answers to prayer must crawl through the corridors of heaven before they reach you. But I say unto you, spirit is instantaneous. The divine does not procrastinate. There is no delay in God, no backlog in the system of spiritual law, no distance between decree and delivery, except the one created by doubt, by fear, by inner resistance. The response of the infinite is not sluggish, it is swift. But man waits, not because heaven delays, but because the soul has not yet aligned with what it already requested. The law has moved, the shift has begun, the vibration has been issued, but you must meet it, you must believe it, you must remove the fog of disbelief so that what is already done may be seen. This is the revelation that dissolves spiritual fatigue. You are not waiting on God, God is waiting on you to receive. The moment the word is spoken in truth, the law is activated. It does not deliberate. It does not check your moral record. It does not weigh your worthiness. It responds to the vibration, to the clarity, to the frequency of your decree. The moment you declare, I am healed, the process begins not later, but now. The moment you say, divine supply is mine, the forces of provision are summoned not metaphorically, but materially. The invisible begins to arrange itself around your faith. And the only delay is the degree to which you still consult appearances, still monitor the world for proof, still doubt the immediacy of Spirit's response. This is why you must learn to speak and then stand. Speak and then rest. Speak and stop searching the horizon. Because the word works behind the scenes, it works in silence. It works in places your five senses cannot perceive. But just because you cannot see it does not mean it isn't working. The moment the word goes forth, the process begins. You may not feel it, you may not see it, but it is moving. And if you hold the vibration, if you maintain the declaration without interruption, you will witness the arrival of what you already spoke into being. Let me share a case, a divine demonstration. A woman once came to me, bound in a situation that had persisted for years. Legal battles, financial blocks, spiritual exhaustion. She had spoken affirmations before, but her voice was full of weariness. Her words were lined with despair. I told her. Speak again, but this time, speak as if it is already done. She looked at me confused, but obedient. She said, Florence, what should I say? I gave her this declaration. The chain is broken. Divine justice is mine. The way is now clear. She repeated it not as a wish, but as a verdict. She spoke it for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, the letter came. The opposition withdrew. The case was closed. The delay dissolved. Why? Because the word was spoken in authority, and the law had no choice but to move. And so it is with you. Do not confuse silence with absence. Do not confuse invisibility with inactivity. God is moving, but you must stop canceling your own orders. You must stop declaring one thing and then checking for evidence. The word does not need your supervision, it needs your certainty. It needs your unwavering stance, it needs your trust. Say this now, with finality. The divine response is immediate. My word goes forth and it is done. I speak and the law moves. I no longer wait, I receive. I no longer doubt, I rest. What I speak in truth, I see in form. Let every cell in your body come into agreement. Let your nervous system exhale. Let your subconscious finally stop chasing and start receiving. The answer is not on its way, it is already here. It is forming in the unseen. It is being carved into manifestation by the invisible hands of law. Speak, stand, watch it move. There is a moment in the soul's journey when it must stop suggesting and start commanding. A moment when polite spiritual language, careful optimism, and well-behaved faith must be set aside in favor of bold, unwavering declaration. That moment is now. You are not here to negotiate with life. You are not here to tiptoe around your good. You are not here to beg God for scraps or submit your affirmations with trembling hands. You are here to command the unseen, and by divine law, it must move. Not because of who you are in the eyes of the world, but because of who you are in the realm of spirit. You are not a guest in God's house. You are the authority of the word, the emissary of law, the voice of divine intention made audible, and the unseen responds to the spoken command, not the silent hope. The metaphysical truth is this: you are not separate from the creative power. You are the outlet through which it flows. Your speech is not a suggestion, it is an initiation. The moment you speak from alignment, from conviction, from spiritual structure, you activate forces that move beyond logic, time, and material resistance. The unseen, the field of invisible substance that surrounds all things, responds not to begging, not to wondering, not even to emotion, but to law, and law is activated by word. You cannot command the unseen with hesitation in your voice. You cannot move spirit with apologies, disclaimers, or doubt. You must speak rhythmically, deliberately, and lawfully. The declaration must carry the energy of inevitability. You are not hoping it works, you are speaking because it already has. The command is not to make God do something, it is to bring what already is into what already belongs to you by divine right. The law has already provided, the supply is already created, the healing is already complete. Your command is the permission slip that allows it to materialize in form. And how do you command? Not through emotional performance, not through strain or spiritual gymnastics. You speak with clarity, rhythm, and alignment. One of the most powerful formulas I give is this: by divine law, I now receive 10, under grace, in perfect ways. This is not just a sentence, it is a spiritual operation. It contains law, timing, receptivity, and divine order. By divine law, you invoke the structure. I now receive, you activate the channel. Under grace, you align with love. In perfect ways, you release control and trust divine intelligence. This is not wishful thinking, it is metaphysical movement. Let us apply this. Let the unseen hear your voice. By divine law, I now receive divine guidance. By divine law, I now receive financial increase. By divine law, I now receive favor in all that concerns me. By divine law, I now receive healing, peace, clarity, and supply. And then you stop watching. You stop measuring. You stop counting the hours. You speak and rest. You declare and step back. Because the one who commands from truth does not check for results, they expect them. They know the command went forth. They know the unseen is already organizing. They know the thing spoken is now in formation, and their job is not to chase it but to receive it. Let this metaphor carry you. The word is the wand. The spirit is the performer. You do not wave your hand in hope, you wave it, because you know the law is set to obey. You do not command the unseen because you are desperate. You do it because it is your right, your calling, your power. You are not commanding God, you are commanding law. And law, once spoken, moves. Declare this now, with sacred clarity. I no longer hope, I command. I no longer wait, I initiate. I speak with divine backing. I declare with spiritual authority. I command the unseen, and it must obey. What I speak in law, I receive in form. I command it now. This is not performance. This is principle. This is not ego. This is embodiment. And once you command from this place, fear flees, doubt dissolves, and the unseen begins to take shape before your eyes. Because spirit always answers, the voice of law. Delay is not divine. It is not holy. It is not sent from God to punish, to test, or to teach you patience. Delay, in its metaphysical essence, is the manifestation of resistance, resistance in the mind, resistance in the body, resistance in the field. It is the pause created by contradiction, the gap between decree and belief, the hesitation between what is spoken and what is subconsciously allowed. But I am here to declare, with fire and finality, there is a word that breaks delay. There is a formula, a rhythm, a vibration that dissolves the illusion of not yet and reveals the reality of already done. You are not waiting for the thing to be prepared. You are waiting for your agreement with its presence. And that agreement happens when you stop wrestling with time. When you stop watching the clock of the world and start aligning with the tempo of spirit. Time in the human realm is linear, sequential, controlled by calendars and deadlines. But time in the spiritual realm is vibrational. There is no before or after, there is only now. And the moment you speak from that eternal now, you cancel the illusion of delay. You override the spell of someday. You break the agreement with waiting. You see, most people do not realize they have signed spiritual contracts with delay. They say, one day I'll have enough. Eventually it will come, when the time is right. But every one of those phrases is an affirmation of separation. Everyone is a spiritual postponement disguised as wisdom. But truth does not dwell in delay. Truth is immediate, law is immediate, God is immediate, and when you speak as one who knows this, you summon your good out of the shadows and into the visible field. Let us clarify the law. The law of non-resistance teaches us that whatever we fight, we feed. The more you struggle with delay, the more you energize it. The more you ask, why hasn't it come yet? The more you anchor it in the realm of not yet. But when you stop resisting, when you stop worrying, questioning, doubting, waiting, and instead declare, then the current of divine timing begins to flow freely. And when you couple this with the law of substitution, replacing every delay-based thought with one rooted in immediacy and completion, you create a pathway for what already exists in spirit to reach you in form. This is the spoken formula I give. There are no delays in divine mind. What is mine now appears. I walk in divine timing, and divine timing is now. Say it until your cells believe it. Say it until time bends. Say it until you no longer count the hours, but walk in expectancy. Say it as you would say your own name, without question, without doubt, without delay. You may not see it yet, but the moment you stop asking when and start declaring now, the bridge between desire and delivery begins to build itself. You do not need to wait for the world to catch up. You only need to stop entertaining the illusion that you are behind. So speak it now, with boldness and clarity. There are no delays in divine mind. I do not chase, I attract. I do not wait, I align. What is mine by law is mine by timing, and divine timing is not later, it is now. Feel that word pierce through the fog. Feel it cut the cords that tethered you to almost. Feel it snap the chains of waiting, hoping, wondering. The word does not wait. The word performs. And now, so do you. You no longer live in delay. You speak from completion. You live in the now, where your good already is. Money is not mysterious. It is not elusive. It is not a prize awarded to the most deserving or a puzzle solved only by the privileged few. It is spiritual substance, drawn into form by law, and governed by the same metaphysical structure as every other form of manifestation. It is obedient, it is neutral, it is responsive. And it is waiting for clarity, because money does not move in response to effort alone. It moves in response to authority. It moves when the word is spoken with precision, not confusion. It moves when the decree is clean, not clouded by fear. If your declarations about money are vague, apologetic, doubtful, or tinged with spiritual guilt, money remains on the other side of the veil, close but unreachable. It wants to come, but it cannot pass through muddied waters. The law is exact. Money follows the word that knows where it's going. That means your language must stop reflecting your confusion. You must stop saying, "I want more money. I hope I make enough. I just need a little to get by." These are the utterances of survival, not sovereignty. They carry no weight in spiritual law. The field cannot organize around phrases that contradict themselves. When you say, "I need more money," you are affirming lack. When you say, "Money is coming," you are implying it is not here. But when you say, "I now receive large sums of money, under grace, in perfect ways," you speak from the throne. You speak as one who knows the system. You speak as law, and law must respond. I once counseled a woman whose finances had dried up. She was overwhelmed, saying, "I've been working harder than ever, but nothing is coming in." I asked her, "What are you declaring daily?" She paused. "I've been saying, 'I hope something changes soon.'" I said, "Then that's what you're getting, hope. Vague, formless hope. Let's shift it." I gave her this simple yet powerfully coded decree. Large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. At first, she whispered it. Then she spoke it louder. Then, as the days passed, she began to feel it, own it, embody it. Within 1 week, an old client reached out with a major project. Within 2 weeks, her inbox was full of opportunities she hadn't even pursued. Money had been waiting not on her action, but on her clarity. Once the word was clear, the flow resumed. This is the lesson. Money moves when the word is clean. Not when you hustle harder. Not when you stress yourself sick. When your declaration about money becomes law, when it is rooted in truth and free of contradiction, the channels open. Because money is not your master. It is your servant. It follows your vibration. It obeys your word. So now speak, not as a beggar, but as a spiritual authority. Large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. I no longer chase, I attract. I no longer wish, I declare. I no longer guess, I command. Money is now moving toward me, in ways seen and unseen. And I receive it with gratitude and clarity. Say it again. Say it with the rhythm of certainty. Let your speech be the order form, your tone the signature, your faith the delivery system. And then stand back. The movement will begin. The provision will appear. The supply will answer. Because money does not resist the voice of truth. It responds to it. Love does not hide. Love does not flee. Love is not playing a cosmic game of tag, staying just one step ahead of your efforts to be good enough, ready enough, healed enough to deserve it. Love is not a rare event or a miracle reserved for the few. Love is law. Love is substance. Love is vibration. Love, when properly aligned with, moves swiftly, abundantly, and divinely into form. But it cannot be chased. The moment you begin to chase love, you place yourself outside of it. You affirm that it is far, distant, separate, and unavailable. You create a story where you are the seeker, and love is the elusive prize. But I say unto you now, love does not come when it is pursued in desperation. Love comes when it is declared from identity, when it is spoken as yours, not wished for as theirs. When you chase love, you speak from lack. You speak from the wound, not the throne. You say things like, "When will I find someone? Why does no one see me? Am I doing something wrong?" These words sound innocent, but they are declarations of disconnection. They reinforce a belief that love is conditional, performance-based, and external. But in truth, love is never outside of you. It is the current of divine intelligence running through your being. It is your natural state. And when you stop chasing it, you begin to recognize it not only in others, but in yourself. And when you recognize it within, it must reflect without. I knew a woman once who longed for love. She tried everything: dating apps, affirmations, self-help programs, rituals. Yet she remained entangled in cycles of rejection, misalignment, and confusion. When she came to me, I didn't tell her to try harder. I told her to stop trying. I told her to speak as if she already was what she sought. to stop looking for the mirror and start becoming the image. I gave her this declaration: I am loved divinely, desired rightly, and received joyfully. She resisted at first. It felt like a lie. But I told her, it's not a lie, it's law. Speak it until your inner vibration rises to meet its truth. And she did. Every day, multiple times a day, she spoke that word not as a chant, but as a recoding. Her energy shifted, her walk changed, her interactions transformed. And within months, she met a man who mirrored her declaration without effort, without strategy, without chase. Love had not finally arrived. It had finally been received. You must stop asking when and start declaring now. Stop scripting the story of loneliness and begin speaking the word of union. Say, I am already chosen. I am already cherished. I am already met with divine love that reflects the truth of who I am. I no longer chase, I radiate. I no longer ask, I anchor. And don't just speak it in the quiet moments. Speak it when you're tempted to scroll through old messages. Speak it when you feel the old ache rising. Speak it when the world tries to remind you of what's missing. Let your declaration be louder than your memory. Let your truth be firmer than your timeline. Because love moves not when you run toward it, but when you stand in it. When you return to the vibration of worthiness. When you stop declaring loneliness and start speaking union. You are not waiting to be picked. You are not hunting for completion. You are returning to the divine rhythm of being loved by the law itself. Say it now and mean it. I am loved divinely, desired rightly, and received joyfully. I do not chase, I magnetize. I do not lack, I radiate. The love I seek is already here, and it recognizes me now. Let that word go forth like a beacon, not a net. Let it shine, not search. Let it declare, not plead. Because once you stop chasing, love starts moving, and it moves straight to you. Your body is not separate from your spirit. It is not a machine to be managed by external intervention alone. It is not a mystery to be decoded by symptoms or statistics. It is a living mirror of consciousness, a sacred vessel that listens to your every word, feels your every thought, and organizes itself around the truth or lie you choose to affirm. And I tell you now with unwavering conviction, your health is not governed by fate, by genetics, by past diagnosis. It is governed by law. And law responds to speech, not just what you say to doctors, not just what you say to friends, but what you say in the silence, what you whisper in fear, what you affirm when you're not trying to be positive. Your body is always listening. The world will tell you that health is a matter of chance, that healing is a slow, uncertain process, that aging, decline, and disease are inevitable. But I say, your body is a field of divine intelligence. Every cell contains the imprint of perfection. Every organ is responsive to the spoken word. Every system, every tissue, every atom was designed to obey the frequency of truth. And when you speak that truth, not as a desperate wish, but as a spiritual law, you begin to reprogram the temple. You begin to dissolve the imprint of fear and replace it with the architecture of wholeness. Not through force, not through fear, but through declaration. There is a law, the law of the word imprint, that says, whatever is spoken repeatedly to the subconscious becomes form in the body. This means that when you say, I am always tired, your body adjusts to fulfill that command. When you say, my back is killing me, you anchor pain. When you declare, I'm falling apart, your cells hear you. They organize around the vibration of decline. But the reverse is also true. When you say, I am vital, radiant, strong, aligned with divine health, your body responds. It reorders. It regenerates. It obeys the law. Because the body does not resist authority, it simply follows orders. I knew a man once whose body was ravaged by chronic illness. He had been told, you'll always have this. Manage your symptoms, accept your limits. And for years he obeyed that sentence, not because it was true, but because it had been spoken with authority. When he came to me, I asked, whose voice are you obeying? He said, the doctor's. I said, then it's time to change the doctor. And I gave him a new voice, his own, rooted in truth. I gave him this decree. Every cell of my body now vibrates with divine perfection. I am the health of God in expression. I am whole. He spoke it daily, sometimes trembling, sometimes in disbelief, but he spoke it, and his body began to listen. Symptoms reduced, energy returned, function restored. Why? Because the word overrode the diagnosis. The law responded not to hope, but to declaration. And so I give it to you now. Every cell of my body now vibrates with divine perfection. I am the health of God in expression. I am whole. Say it, even when your body resists. Say it, even when symptoms persist. Say it, not to pretend, but to proclaim. Say it because the truth must be spoken before it is seen. Say it because your body doesn't need fixing. It needs new instructions. And those instructions come not from fear, not from force, but from the voice of divine authority within you. You are not a victim of your biology. You are not a passive participant in your health. You are the speaker of law. And the body obeys. The healing begins not in the medicine, not in the schedule, not in the supplements, but in the word. The word is the medicine. The word is the treatment. The word is the source. And when it is spoken from truth, it transforms the temple. Say it again. I am not my symptoms. I am not my fear. I am not my history. I am divine health in form. I speak, and my body aligns. I declare, and my body obeys. I am well. I am whole. I am free. Let that be the voice that leads your healing. And the law will follow. Every morning, the world begins again. Every sunrise carries the silent question. Will you lead, or will you be led? Will you speak to this day, or will you allow the day to speak first? Most people rise and check their phones before they check their truth. They step into their schedules before stepping into their spiritual stance. They react to emails, headlines, moods, and tasks shaped and swayed by whatever voice speaks loudest. But I say this with sacred urgency. Before the day speaks to you, you must speak to the day. Before appearances take shape, before fear tries to enter, before the rhythm of routine steals your attention, you must decree. You must take the invisible and stamp it into the visible with your word. This is not just spiritual practice, it is law. The law of the first word belongs to you. The first vibration sets the tone. The first sentence casts the mold. And the day will obey the mold you set. If you wake up and say, I'm already behind, the day will reflect chaos. If you rise and say, let's just get through it, the day becomes survival. But if you rise and say, this is a day of divine order, everything flows, everything aligns, everything blesses me, then even what appears out of place will realign itself to fit the pattern of your decree. You are not here to survive your mornings. You are here to shape them. And shaping begins not with action, but with speech. You dress the day with your declaration. You lace its hours with your faith. You script the plot before the first scene. And once spoken, the day is no longer random, it is orchestrated. Let me give you a practical ritual. Upon waking, not after coffee, not after scrolling, but upon waking, speak these 3 declarations aloud. Do not whisper. Do not wonder. Speak them like you are writing the laws that govern the next 24 hours. This is a day of divine unfolding. I walk in favor, clarity, and ease. Everything I need is already prepared. I am in perfect timing, perfect flow, perfect order. I command this day to bless me, teach me, prosper me, and confirm the truth I speak. These are not affirmations. These are operations. Spoken in faith, they activate the field, instruct your subconscious, and command your atmosphere. Your body will align. Your mind will clear. Your path will unfold not because the day has changed, but because you did. I remember a man who once told me, every day feels like a battle. I wake up already overwhelmed. I asked, what's the first thing you say when you wake? He said, oh no, not again. I smiled and said, then that's the law you're living under. And I taught him the same 3 declarations. Within days, his mornings shifted. Within weeks, his schedule began to open. Within months, his career path realigned. Why? Because he spoke to the day before it could speak fear into him. So I ask you now, will you reclaim your mornings? Will you reclaim the first word? Will you speak not from exhaustion, but from divine expectation? Say this with me now. This day belongs to spirit. This day obeys divine law. I speak to the morning, and it listens. I declare the rhythm, and it follows. I lead with the word, and the world responds. Let that be your wake-up call, not your alarm, not your obligations, but your own voice, speaking with holy fire into the blank canvas of time. Speak it, shape it, send it ahead of you. Because the day is not your master. It is your servant, and it listens to your word. Fear is persistent. It disguises itself in many forms: anxiety, hesitation, overthinking, caution. But at its root, it is always the same. A lie, whispered over and over again until it begins to feel like wisdom. Fear says, be careful. Fear says, what if it goes wrong? Fear says, you'll be humiliated, rejected, abandoned. And yet fear has no creative power. It can suggest, but it cannot manifest. It can haunt, but it cannot create. The only way fear gains power is when you agree with it, and that agreement is not passive, it is verbal. You repeat it in your mind. You speak it aloud in subtle ways. You declare it without even realizing you've given it authority. But I tell you now, there is one word, one divine formula that dissolves fear completely, not in theory, but in experience. That word is this: I cast this fear on the Christ within, and I go free. Simple? Yes. But do not mistake simplicity for weakness. This is not an empty phrase. This is a metaphysical sword. It is the application of the law of casting the burden, a principle that demands the full release of all false responsibility, emotional entanglement, and imagined doom. When fear arises, most people try to manage it. They reason with it, they debate it, they run from it, but the law does not call you to manage fear. The law calls you to cast it, to release it fully, immediately, and authoritatively into the hands of the divine presence within you. This Christ within is not religious symbolism. It is the indwelling God consciousness, the spirit of law, order, truth, and infinite intelligence already alive in you. When you cast your fear onto the Christ within, you are not pushing it away. You are giving it over to the only power that can dissolve it without residue. You are stepping out of the problem and into the principle. And the moment that word is spoken, a transaction occurs. The energy of fear is taken from the body, lifted from the mind, and transformed by the law into peace, guidance, and divine action. I once spoke to a woman who was paralyzed by indecision. She said, I'm afraid of choosing wrong, afraid of making a mistake, afraid of losing what I've worked so hard for. I looked at her and said, then you are not walking by law, you are walking by fear. Let's change that now. I led her in the statement, I cast this fear on the Christ within, and I go free. She repeated it again and again until something broke. Not in the world, but in her spirit. A heaviness lifted, a clarity emerged, and the decision that once seemed terrifying became obvious. Why? Because fear had been cast, not considered, not tolerated, but removed. And so I say to you, do not let fear linger. Do not let it nest in your mind. Do not let it ride in your voice. Speak the word. Speak it with certainty. Speak it when you tremble. Speak it when your heart races. Speak it until peace returns. Say it with me now. I cast this fear on the Christ within, and I go free. Say it again. I cast this fear on the Christ within, and I go free. Say it until the chains break, the fog lifts, and the lie collapses under the weight of truth. This is not a trick. This is not a coping mechanism. This is divine law in motion, and once spoken from alignment, it cannot fail. Fear cannot coexist with this word. It must dissolve. It must depart. It must bow to the truth of your spiritual identity. And once it does, you will find yourself standing in the light. Not because the fear changed, but because you did. You may speak all day long, but if the voice you speak from is wrapped in fear, tangled in uncertainty, or anchored in disbelief, then the law cannot fulfill your request. Not because the law is punishing you, not because God is withholding anything, but because divine law cannot override your contradiction. It will always mirror your dominant vibration. This is the principle behind the law of double-mindedness, a metaphysical warning, not of moral duplicity, but of vibrational interference. When you speak your word in the morning and contradict it by afternoon, you sever the bridge of manifestation. When you say, I know it's done, but still check for signs, obsess over timing, or prepare for disappointment, you have nullified the very decree you intended to activate. The scripture speaks plainly, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Let not that man think he shall receive anything of the Lord. James 1:7-8. The instability referenced here is not emotional turbulence alone, it is spiritual indecision. The seesaw of I believe, maybe, it's coming, unless it doesn't, God moves. But what if he doesn't for me? These statements are not harmless. They are energetic contracts. And the universe, hearing both the truth and the fear, responds to neither. It halts, it pauses. Not in judgment, but in precision. The law will not form what has not been consistently declared. Let me show you the shift. A man once came to me in financial despair. He said, "Florence, I've been saying my affirmations, but nothing has changed." I asked him, "How do you feel when you speak them?" He replied, "Honestly, afraid. I say them, but I don't believe them. I say them, but I still worry." I told him, "Then you are not declaring, you are performing. You are speaking the word with your lips, but canceling it with your vibration." And I gave him a practice not to fix the outer, but to steady the inner. I told him to choose one decree and speak it for 7 days without contradiction. No worry, no checking, no canceling. Just rhythm, just authority, just law. He chose this. God is my instant and endless supply. All that I need now appears. He repeated it throughout the day, not as a chant, but as a reset. And as his mind aligned with his mouth, the vibration cleared. Within 1 week, debts were resolved. An unexpected payment arrived. Doors opened. Why? Because the law was finally free to work. There was no more interference. No more double signal. Just clarity. So let us be clear together. It is not enough to say the right words. You must mean them. You must back them. You must let them stand without interruption. When fear tries to rise, don't speak it. When doubt tries to explain, don't agree with it. Let your word stand taller than your worry. Let your decree ring louder than your disappointment. Speak this now, with decision. I no longer speak in contradiction. I no longer affirm in the morning and cancel in the evening. I speak from truth, and I let my word stand. I believe what I say, I embody what I declare. My word is law, and I trust its power. Say it again, and let your spirit catch up. No more wobble, no more doubt, no more delay. I speak with one voice, one mind, one law, and the law responds. This is the beginning of unwavering creation. No more testing the water, no more spiritual insurance policies, no more just-in-case fears. You speak and you let the word do its work. You stop interrupting your harvest. You stop confusing the field. You speak once, you believe always, and you receive exactly what you declare. The universe is not confused. It is not withholding. It is not reluctant to bless you, but it is also not psychic. It does not move because you think positive thoughts. It does not rearrange itself because you feel hopeful. It does not shift because you're kind, humble, or well-meaning. The universe moves by law, and law moves by word. Until you speak, the law cannot be activated. Until the decree is made, the structure cannot be formed. Until the vibration of your voice cuts through the silence, the field remains still. Not because God isn't listening, but because nothing has been spoken. You cannot expect the substance of spirit to take shape if you have not given it a shape to take. This is why so many souls live in quiet despair. They think, God knows what I want. I don't need to say it. But I tell you, even the knowing of God waits for your instruction. Even divine intention waits for your voice. It was never enough to wish. It was never enough to desire. You must speak. The word is the mechanism, the tool, the technology by which spirit expresses through form. Until the word is released, the formless remains formless. Let me put it to you like this. Your silence is not neutrality, it is delay. It is not peace, it is indecision. It is not spiritual surrender, it is vibrational pause. And while you are silent, the law cannot override your passivity. It waits, it listens, it responds, but only to the voice of the speaker. That's why I say to you now, your silence must end. Not your meditation, not your stillness, but your lack of decree, your refusal to claim, your habit of thinking but not commanding. I once guided a woman who told me, I journal every day, I visualize, I feel the energy of my desires, but nothing is changing. I asked her, are you speaking them into the field? She blinked. Not really. I guess I don't say them out loud. And that was it. She had built the house but forgotten to flip the switch. She had painted the picture but never turned on the light. So I gave her a practice. For 30 days, declare aloud the vision. Not write it, not think it, speak it. She chose these words. My life is divinely ordered, divinely supplied, and divinely fulfilled. Everything I desire now takes visible form. Within days, her inner world shifted. Within weeks, doors opened. Not because the universe suddenly became generous, but because she finally spoke the code. She stopped being a passive recipient and became an active creator. So I ask you now, how long will you stay silent? How long will you wait for God to read your mind when the law was built to hear your word? How long will you perform spiritual behaviors while withholding your decree? Let this be the day your silence ends. Say this now, with rhythm and reverence. I no longer hide in silence. I no longer wait in passivity. I speak my truth. I speak my supply. I speak my alignment. I speak my identity, and the universe responds. Let it ring. Let it echo. Let your body feel the vibration of your own authority. Say it again. I declare aloud what I desire. I command what I expect. I activate the law with my word, and what I speak is what becomes. Your word is not optional, it is essential. Your voice is not decoration, it is divine equipment. You were not sent here to think quietly, you were sent here to speak with boldness. Because until you speak, nothing moves. But the moment you do, everything does. In the beginning, there was not form. There was not structure. There was not order. There was the void, the unseen, the infinite field of formless potential, what Scripture calls without form and void. And into that void, a voice spoke, "Let there be light." And light appeared. Not because God hoped, not because God waited, not because God performed a ritual, but because God spoke. And that same creative pattern, that divine architecture of causation, is the exact template you now carry. When you speak into what appears empty, when you declare into what looks like nothing, you are not talking to a vacuum. You are programming potential. You are forming the formless. You are making visible what spirit has already completed. You must learn this spiritual law. The void is not the absence of power. It is the absence of instruction. It is not a punishment. It is an invitation. The void is waiting not to scare you, not to test you, but to hear your word. Because the formless is obedient. It listens, it remembers, it responds. And when you speak with clarity into that emptiness, the substance of your next reality begins to take shape. Not immediately in appearance, but immediately in vibration. The word does not hover, it anchors. It plants. And the invisible begins to move. But most people speak based on what they see. They say, "There's nothing there. I don't know what's coming. It's empty." And they don't realize they are affirming the void. They are reinforcing the absence. They are building their reality around a report instead of a revelation. But the spiritual artist, the one who walks in truth, speaks what is, not what appears. She looks at the bare field and says, "My harvest is here." He looks at the closed door and says, "The way is now open." They speak not based on visibility, but based on law. Because faith is not found in description, it is found in declaration. Let me tell you of a woman who had just lost her job. She came to me defeated, saying, "Florence, I have nothing. I feel like a failure. There are no options left." I told her, "That's not nothing. That's the void. And the void is waiting for your word." I gave her one command: speak daily, without deviation, into the nothingness. Speak as if the door is already open. Speak as if the position already exists. Speak as if the field is already full. She chose this. Divine opportunity now appears. I am divinely guided to the perfect place, the perfect position, the perfect provision. She spoke it in the morning. She spoke it at night. She spoke it when her mind resisted. And by the second week, an offer came from a company she had never applied to a position created just for her. Why? Because she didn't wait for the form to appear. She spoke it into being. So I say to you now, stop agreeing with the void. Stop narrating the nothing. Stop describing the absence. And start declaring what you know by law, even if you cannot yet see it by sight. Speak this with me. The invisible now becomes visible. I speak into the formless, and it takes shape. I declare my supply, my path, my provision, and it now appears. Say it again, with spiritual clarity. Though I see nothing, I speak everything. Though the field looks bare, I call forth my harvest. Though the door is closed, I command it open by divine law. This is not delusion. This is dominion. This is not fantasy. This is formation. Because you are not waiting for the void to end. You were born to speak into it, and watch it become your miracle. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey, not of invitation, but of confrontation, when you must say no. Not softly, not suggestively, but sacredly. Because not every energy is yours to host. Not every pattern is yours to repeat. Not every thought is yours to accept. And while the world may teach you to be open to everything, I tell you, in the name of divine law, true spiritual power requires boundaries. Not barriers of fear, but walls of truth. Not shields of resistance, but swords of clarity. And the sharpest, cleanest sword in your metaphysical arsenal is the sacred no, the denial of appearances that do not align with spiritual law. This is the law of denial, not to be confused with repression or avoidance. Denial is not ignoring, it is not pretending. It is the firm, spoken rejection of anything that contradicts divine order. It is the statement that says, "That may be a fact, but it is not the truth." It is the decree that stands at the door of your consciousness and says to fear, to lack, to limitation, "You are not welcome here. You do not belong. You have no authority in this house of truth." The sacred no is not emotional, it is legal. It is not based on how you feel in the moment. It is based on the higher law that governs all moments. When you receive a diagnosis and fear begins to knock, you don't cower, you deny. You say, "This has no power. The truth of my being is health." When your bank account drops and lack whispers lies, you don't agree with it. You don't affirm the scarcity. You deny it. This appearance of limitation has no spiritual foundation. God is my supply. And when old narratives return stories of failure, fear, unworthiness, you speak the sacred no with unwavering clarity. I do not believe this lie. I do not serve this thought. I do not return to what I've been delivered from. Let me give you a practice. When anything arises in your consciousness that contradicts your good, speak this sequence aloud. I deny this appearance. It has no power over me. I deny this fear. It is not of God, and therefore cannot stay. I deny this delay. I walk in divine timing, and divine timing is now. These are not affirmations, these are legal statements. You are withdrawing your agreement with the false. You are pulling your power out of illusion. You are reasserting your authority as one governed by truth. I remember a student who used to affirm constantly, but still lived in panic. She said, "I'm saying all the right things, but it's not working." I asked, "Have you denied the lie before affirming the truth?" She looked confused. "I just focus on the positive," I said. "Then you are building on a shaky foundation. You cannot build the palace of truth on the rubble of fear. You must first clear the ground. You must say no." She began practicing the sacred no, and in days, her anxiety began to dissolve, not because she became stronger, but because she stopped agreeing with weakness. So I ask you now, what have you silently agreed with? What lies have you nodded to, bowed to, surrendered to, simply because you forgot the power of your own refusal? Say it now, and say it clean. I deny lack, I deny fear, I deny limitation, I deny delay, I deny separation, I deny all that contradicts the truth of my being. Say it again, not with emotion, but with force. I deny anything that is not of God. I withdraw my consent. I remove my agreement. I erase my signature from every false contract I've ever made, with fear. The sacred no is not negative. It is holy. It is how you cleanse the field. It is how you refuse to entertain lies. It is how you make room for the yes that truly belongs. And once you speak it, the truth has space to speak back. This is where the soul is tested, not in abundance, but in apparent absence. Not when the table is full, but when the plate is empty. Not when everything is flowing, but when nothing seems to move. This is the point where most abandon the word. They look at the visible and believe it to be the truth. They measure their life by what they can touch, and forget that the invisible is always working. But the spiritually mature, the metaphysically anchored, the student of divine law, they know, appearances do not dictate reality. They know that the moment to declare is not when the harvest has come, but when the field is still bare. Because true faith speaks when there's no reason to speak, and true law responds when that word is spoken into seeming void. This is why the declaration of supply must be made, not after the money arrives, not after the door opens, not after the manifestation is visible. It must be made before the loan clears, before the invoice is paid, before the opportunity knocks. Because you do not declare based on what you see, you declare based on what you know. And what you know, by divine law, is this. Supply is always present. It may not be in your bank. It may not be on your desk. It may not be in your hand. But it is here. In the field. In motion. In preparation. And your declaration is the magnet that draws it from idea into form. The law of preemptive declaration is this. You must speak before there is evidence. You must give thanks before the account shifts. You must affirm abundance while the outer world still shows lack. Because the word is not a reaction, it is a cause. And if you wait for form to give you permission to believe, you will be stuck forever in a loop of waiting. You will be worshiping appearances, not law. And you will rob yourself of the most powerful truth of all. What you declare before the form arrives determines how fast it does. I give you now a simple, potent decree. It must be spoken daily. It must be spoken when fear is loud, when funds are low, when you are tempted to agree with emptiness. Say, I am already fully funded. My harvest is in motion now. Supply is here, even if I cannot yet see it. I declare overflow, and overflow declares me. Say it when the bills arrive. Say it when the phone call doesn't come. Say it when doubt tries to rise like fog on the edge of your consciousness. Speak it not to persuade the law, but to awaken your awareness of it. Because supply does not begin when you speak, it becomes visible when you align. I knew a teacher once who told me, Florence, I can't declare money is here when it clearly isn't. I smiled and replied, then it never will be, because your word is waiting on your courage. You think the field must prove itself, but the field is waiting for your instruction. She took my counsel. She began speaking. My supply is present. My abundance is real. I am already provided for. And within days, unexpected refunds appeared. Checks cleared, delays reversed. Because she stopped asking life to show her something before she declared it, she declared and life followed. So, I give you this now, not as suggestion, but as spiritual instruction. I declare my supply now. Not when I see it, not when I feel it, now. Because the seed is planted before the tree is seen. Because the vibration comes before the form. Because I do not live by appearances, I live by law. Speak it. I am already fully funded. Everything I need is already here. My supply is endless. My provision is unfolding. My harvest is certain. And say it again, not to make it true, but because it already is. Worry is the counterfeit version of creation. It is imagination misused. It is energy misdirected. It is the shadow twin of the word, masquerading as preparation, vigilance, care. But make no mistake, worry is not wisdom. Worry is not discernment. Worry is not love. It is fear dressed in logic. It is the mind rehearsing lack, rehearsing loss, rehearsing disaster as if worry itself were a protective shield. But it is not. Worry creates nothing but delay. It is spiritual static. And every time you worry, you withdraw power from your word and transfer it to the lie. You place your energy on the altar of false appearances and feed the very outcomes you claim to resist. You were not created to worry. You were created to speak. And where worry loops in circles, the word draws a straight line. Worry binds, the word liberates. Worry spins, the word sends. You must now come to a radical understanding. Every time you worry, you are praying backwards. You are rehearsing what you do not want with the intensity that belongs to faith. You are declaring, again and again, the opposite of your good, energizing the problem, magnifying the lack, multiplying the fear. And so you must shift. You must retrain your inner reflex. When the worry arises, you must not entertain it. You must not analyze it. You must replace it, instantly, deliberately, with the word. This is the practice. For every worry thought, you install a word. Not just a vague hope, but a bold, rhythmic declaration that speaks what is true according to spiritual law. When your mind says, what if I don't have enough? You interrupt with, God is my unfailing supply, I am always provided for. When your heart says, what if it all falls apart? You respond, divine order governs my life. Nothing can be lost that belongs to me by law. When your body says, what if I don't recover? You declare, every cell of my being now vibrates with divine perfection. I am healed, whole, and held. These are not affirmations. These are replacements. They are spiritual transactions. You are pulling your energy out of worry and investing it in truth. You are rewiring your nervous system to respond to fear with authority. And you are proving to yourself that the mind is not your master, it is your instrument. I knew a businessman who lived in a constant state of quiet panic. On the outside, he was composed, but inside, he told me, I run scenarios all day long. I'm always asking, what if this deal fails? What if I lose it all? I said to him. Then you are using the law against yourself. You are prophesying failure with your energy. Stop praying backwards. I gave him one declaration to replace every mental spiral. All things are working together for my immediate good. Even now, the outcome is perfect. He began to speak it not just once a day, but every time worry tried to rise. And as the days passed, his mind began to calm. His body relaxed, and more importantly, his results shifted. Deals flowed. Clients returned. Opportunities unfolded, not because the outer world changed first, but because he did. So I say to you now, stop bowing to worry as if it were insight. Stop giving it airtime in your temple. Stop rehearsing pain under the illusion of being prepared. Say it with me. Instead of worry, I speak the word. Instead of panic, I declare peace. Instead of forecasting failure, I affirm divine success. Again, worry is not my rhythm. Truth is. Fear is not my reflex. Declaration is. I no longer feed what I do not want. I speak what is mine, and I receive it. This is how you become untouchable, not by hiding from life, but by speaking over it. Not by bracing for loss, but by declaring your alignment. Worry builds walls. The word opens doors. And from this moment on, you speak only in one direction. Forward, into truth. The world tells you to end your day in exhaustion, to let your mind drift aimlessly into unconscious chatter, to collapse under the weight of everything that went wrong, everything unfinished, everything uncertain. But divine law offers a higher instruction. The final word you speak before sleep is not a closing, it is a command. It is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. And while your body rests, your mind receives. Your spirit listens. Your declarations, spoken just before the gates of sleep close, bypass resistance and go straight to the inner chamber where the blueprint of your life is being constantly drafted. This is not poetic metaphor, it is metaphysical operation. If you fall asleep rehearsing fear, fear will marinate in your subconscious. If you fall asleep grieving lack, lack will multiply behind the veil. But if you fall asleep in declaration, in command, in law, the morning must rise to match the tone you've set. Your subconscious is a silent listener. It does not argue. It does not debate. It absorbs. And in the final moments of the day, it is most impressionable. What you speak as your last conscious thought will echo through the hours of your rest, forming, aligning, preparing. That is why your pre-sleep decree must not be random. It must be deliberate. You do not fall into sleep. You enter it. As a commander enters a chamber, as a speaker enters the courtroom of the unseen, your voice must be the last sound heard by your soul. And it must be laced not with worry, not with review, not with emotional residue, but with creative command. Let me give you 3 formulas, 3 night keys, to seal your consciousness in divine instruction. As I sleep, divine intelligence is at work. Everything concerning me is being perfectly resolved. I release all fear, all striving, all tension. I sleep in the peace of knowing it is done. The word I have spoken today continues to work while I rest. My good is unfolding even now. These are not lullabies, they are assignments. They tell your subconscious what to organize, what to attract, what to let go of. And when spoken consistently, they create a rhythm, a nightly command center from which your morning is orchestrated. I once advised a woman who was plagued with anxiety at night. She said, "Florence, it's like I can't shut it off. My mind races, and I wake up already defeated," I told her. "Then you've let fear be your bedtime storyteller. Replace it." She began speaking a single word before sleep. Divine peace governs me now. I am safe, supplied, and in perfect timing. Within days, her rest deepened. Within weeks, her mornings shifted. Not because the outer world changed, but because her subconscious received new instructions. So I say to you now, reclaim your night. Take the final word away from worry. End your day as a spiritual sovereign, not a mental victim. Say this now. I no longer fall asleep in fear. I fall into divine alignment. I sleep as one who knows the law is working, even now. Say it again, slowly, rhythmically. As I rest, the field is forming. As I sleep, the unseen is shifting. As I dream, the Spirit delivers. Let your bed become an altar. Let your pillow be the place where miracles begin. Let your final thought not be a review of the past, but a declaration of what now unfolds. Because the night is not the end, it is the workshop of Spirit, and your word is the foreman. Now you arrive at the gate, not the end of the journey, but the point of convergence, where all that you have spoken, all that you have denied, all that you have dared to declare comes into alignment. This is the moment where you stop performing spirituality and begin embodying it. You no longer speak to fix something, you speak because you know. You no longer declare as a desperate act of faith, you declare as law. You speak not to convince God to move, but because you now understand. God moves when you speak from divine authority and refuse to bow to appearance. This is not superstition. This is not emotional scripting. This is truth uncompromising, law-anchored, rhythm-backed truth. It is not enough to say it once. It is not enough to test it like an experiment. You must stand. The law does not require begging. It requires belief. Not the belief that trembles, but the belief that stands like a tree planted by the river, unmoved by weather, unwavering in posture. When you speak your word and stand in it, the unseen moves. The order is already sent. The outcome is already forming. And you must not waver. You must not look back. You must not cancel what you've created by checking, doubting, undoing. Spirit does not delay. The law does not forget, but it mirrors what you carry, and if your vibration is scattered, your result will be partial. But when your word is anchored in knowing that God is moving, that divine intelligence is aligning, that supply is already in the room, even when you cannot see it, then you step into a new rhythm of manifestation. Not of hustle, not of hurry, but of harmony. So this is what I leave you with, not another teaching, but a spiritual dare. Speak, stand, and watch God move. Not tomorrow, not when it feels better, not when the stars align. Now. Here is your final affirmation sequence. Speak each line aloud with fire, with fullness, with the voice of one who commands heaven and earth, not with ego, but with the authority of divine law. I speak divine supply, not because I need it, but because it already belongs to me. I declare perfect order. Even if the world looks chaotic, I speak the rhythm of truth into it. I release resistance. I stop fighting the process. I stop fearing the timing. I open, I allow. I expect miracles. Not someday. Not from luck. I expect them because the law guarantees them. God moves now, because I have spoken, because the word has gone forth, because the law never fails. Say them again, with full embodiment. Let the words take up space in your lungs, your bones, your bloodstream. I speak divine supply. I declare perfect order. I release resistance. I expect miracles. God moves now. And now rest your voice. Rest your mind. You have spoken, you have stood, and the movement has begun. The doors are opening. The way is being made. The form is taking shape, because the word went out and it does not return void.